Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another monthly stand-up for the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit. It's been a busy month. We've got a lot of stuff to get into that we're excited to share with you today. But first, let's go around the room. Vlad, how are you doing?
Yeah, hello everyone. Today is the first day of summer and congratulations with that. And also today, just a few hours ago, I finally received a Microsoft MVP. Yeah,
Hey!
yeah, thank you. So summer starts well. We'll see how it will go.
Congratulations, that's huge. And
Yeah, thank
I,
you.
I know you've submitted a long time ago, too. We were just chatting about that.
Yeah,
So good, so good.
yeah, Brandon, you're the next.
I know, I submitted mine about a month ago now, so how long did it take you? 6 months to hear back?
Yeah, approximately.
So maybe in a couple months. That's great,
Yeah.
Vlad. Congratulations. Very well deserved. I was actually surprised to find out you weren't an MVP already. So welcome to I'm not in the club, but
Yeah,
welcome to the
just
club.
a confirmation.
Yeah. Kim, how's everything going?
Good. It's I suppose it's the same season here, right, in Switzerland. So I've been going for holidays and things like that, and enjoying the sun actually in Switzerland, and doing bike riding and carrying on. So it's been a good time to travel, and it's also build has just happened. So for me, that means it was very busy with lots of work things as well. So
Oh yeah.
AI,
Not to
all
put you on the
things,
spot.
know?
Yeah, not to put you on the spot. What are a couple big announcements or Maui announcements from Build that we can share with the community?
I don't know about the Maui ones. I was actually watching a session with Maddie the other day, actually. So I'm not doing any of the Maui announcement stuff, but I was watching a really cool session with Maddie where she actually started off with one of the customer stories, which was really cool, and yeah, which was really nice to see. So I reckon go and have a look at that one. Yeah.
All right. I need to catch up myself. I was in Oslo last week to speak at a conference called NDC Oslo, and yeah, it was the same time as Build, so I missed the whole thing.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, Sean, how you doing?
Hey, Brandon. Yeah, I'm good. Like the others, I've enjoying this fine weather, although it's turned a little bit rubbish the last couple of days here. Although I went to a .NET meetup last night, and they said good things about the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit, which was nice. Talk
right.
on doing object detection in a .NET MAUI app, which is pretty cool.
Whoa, using what, like ARKit or?
No, he was using an Onyx model, so did some training in Azure and then downloaded an offline, so it was all done in client side rather than server side. But it gave me some inspiration to try and get back to looking at the camera view, because that's something that we need to get finished off so we can make life easier.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, actually, we'll save that. We have a pretty good segue, but let's do some announcements first. Let's bring up the screen here. As you can tell, we're a little light today. There's only 4 out of the 6 of us. Jay's been working hard. He wasn't able to make it today and had something come up last minute with Gerald. So I'll be handling all the AV transitions, screen sharing stuff. So bear with me. But
I'll post all the links for you, Brandon.
Oh, thank you, Kim. But one of the biggest announcements, we released a new version of the toolkit. So version 5.2.0 went live last week. We continued on our tradition of Friday releases, which kind of started out ironically, and now we just keep doing it ironically. But this is a really cool one. Vlad added a great new feature called speech to text. So if you're ever looking for your app to have the ability for somebody to speak into it, then we'll run that speech through all the native language processing on the device, and then display whatever text they give us back. So really cool, really cool feature. We also added icon tint color for Windows. This was, let's give him the credit. There he is. Kevin, thank you so much for the pull request. Kevin figured out how to do it in Windows. We are cheating a little bit because not that you can't do it in Windows, but we're essentially overlaying, or Kevin figured out a way to overlay color on top of the image to tint it. And so I actually saw, Kevin, if you're watching, I saw a bug pop up just either today or yesterday where it looks like our alignment on that overlay is a little bit off, but we can dig into that. But for the most part, content color behavior now works on Windows. And for whatever reason, I'm going to chalk it up to just a clerical error. We hadn't been supporting macOS, and it was literally just we named a file wrong. If you ever go look at the code in our repo, we do a lot of conditional compiling based on the suffix of the file name. So you'll see a lot of .ios.cs files, and those only compile when we build the iOS library. And you'll see a lot of .mac.cs files. Those only compile when you see the Mac, when we're building the Mac library. And we also have one called .macios.cs, which since macOS or Mac Catalyst and iOS are so similar, we can kind of get away with building the same file in both sometimes. And this is an easy fix to provide support for macOS for icon tint color behavior. Just change the file name from .ios.cs to .macios.cs, and it magically works now. So apologies for that. I didn't know we didn't have that support until somebody asked about it in the discussion. And then along with it, we've fixed some bugs for file saver, folder picker, and then we've got a couple more in there around null reference exceptions. But do check it out. It was a big monthly release for us with new features. We also pushed out Media Element version 2.0, and that sounds incredible. Like, what did we add? Really, we just fixed the bug. The bug required a breaking change. So we have to marshal the seek method to the UI thread for Windows. So the seek method was previously just return to void. We had to bump that up to the value task so we could allow you to await it. So change the API a little bit. Version 2.0 is actually just kind of a small bug fix, but if you are using .seek, your method, you'll want to await that now. And not to be forgotten, our C# markup library also pushed out a new release, version 3.2.0. And this adds some cool things like, well, first of all, we use a lot of source generators behind the scenes, both in MAUI markup and also in the Community Toolkit library. And we found we were generating kind of duplicate classes sometimes. So if you had say a class that was implementing an interface, then we would generate some code for you because we found the interface and because we found that class. So super helpful pull request from Yusuf to help us fix that for our text alignment source generator. Thank you, Yusuf. And then we also added some features around type binding. So if you've been watching the stand-ups lately, I've been preaching the amazingness of type bindings where you can just point directly to your view model when you make a binding. And it means you don't have to use reflection, and super helpful. If I was, oh, no, that's just the documentation PR. Well, the docs are live, but long story short, we have these gesture extensions. So if you want to create a new label and add a tap binding to it, you can say new label dot bind tap gesture, and now you can pass those in with our super fast type bindings. We also added in some improvements for absolute layout flags. So if you are using an absolute layout, let's see if I can find this a little bit quicker. Yeah. So this is just a nice little quality of life improvement where if you wanted to, where is it? Oh, maybe this one. Closer. .layout flags, here we go. So if you wanted to have multiple absolute layout flags, like sometimes you want your X position to be proportional and you want your width to be proportional, but you don't want anything else, you'll have to pass in two flags. And previously, you could just do that with a bitwise OR operator. But now we allow you to pass in these as params. So you have this cool new feature where you can say .layout flags and then pass them in just almost like comma separated values. So it should feel much more simpler and more intuitive, especially if you're not familiar with how to do bitwise OR operations on enums. Whew. So those are the big announcements from the toolkit. But Vlad volunteered today because we've had Jay, our resident Samsung Tizen expert, he's been giving us Tizen updates. But Vlad found something really cool in Tizen, and since Jay's not here to share with us today, Vlad, show us what you got.
Yeah, sure. Let me share my screen and my entire screen and share. Okay. Yeah. So what today I want to show you is called Remote Test Lab. It's created by Samsung. So if you are familiar with like remote desktop, so assume this is like an utility for you to remote connect to the device and use it. Also, it's similar to the browser stack, if you also know this product. So to use Remote Test Lab, you can go to developer.samsung.com/remote test lab. You will need to have a Samsung account. You just need to sign in, and that's it. Now you can use feature devices provided by Samsung. If you click Get Started, you are redirected to the Samsung devices list, where you can find a lot of devices that you can remotely connect. Some of them can be connected directly from your browser. Some of them requires Java connection. But because we're mostly talking about Tizen, you can also find here Tizen Mobile. So both of them require Java. And you can request this device. It's a real device, not like simulator or emulator, which you can just install. So you can connect to the real device located somewhere in Korea with pre-installed Tizen version. You can request this device for some period of time, and it will cost you 2 credits. As for credits, each day you can request 10 free credits. It's available so you can request it once per day. So currently I have already 77. Yeah. So you can just click like start. It will ask you that it will download some device like this. Well, it's not currently verified, but on Windows you can install Java runtime, and you can open it, request, and after that you will see that you can connect to the device. What is cool that it's not only like a device that you can click, you can also install some software on the device. Probably let me try to show it the same I played with Galaxy Mobile. Let's start again. Pop-up requested. Yeah, here we are. I accept some personal data, and this is a real device, and it's already available. It's pretty fast. You can click on it. You can access any data on that device, and furthermore, you can see the list of applications. You can install some app from your local system, and it will appear here. So it's a way for you, for example, to test any device available from the list, especially if you develop from Tizen. And if you don't have a real Tizen device, you can test it using this remote test lab. Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah, pretty much it. Close the window, and furthermore, you can even well, for now it's probably not available, but you can even request back some tokens, which credits which you haven't used. Yeah, you can find it some usage history that I requested back one, so it cost me only 1 credit because I used it only for 15 minutes. So it's pretty cool system, yeah, and I highly recommend using it. Yeah, sometimes device may not be available, so it depends on number of available devices. You can see for Tizen it's only available 1 device, so sometimes you may need to wait some time until device released by some other people. But usually for like more popular devices like Galaxy devices, you can see that it's pretty much 15 devices available currently, so it should be it should be enough. Yeah.
Super cool. Yeah, I saw Kim mentioned in the comments that Kim said reminds me of the heady days of Test Cloud. And yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I remember back when Kim and I worked at Xamarin, back when we were still Xamarin. Yeah, this was something that we had chatted about doing, like what do we call it, like Test Cloud Live or something like that. But
yeah,
it unfortunately never happened.
The most benefit for me is that it's technically free to use, so it's probably a lot of people can find it useful because they just can. It's pretty. They do not need to install like additional software. They just click run, and it's there. Yeah,
super cool.
Fantastic.
Well, thanks, Vlad.
George asked if we could share the link. Unfortunately, the links I'm posting aren't coming through, but
yeah, the link is like developer Samsung.com remote test lab, or you can just Google remote test lab by Samsung, and it will be available for you. Yeah.
Cool. And Vlad, yeah, if you get a chance, you can come in here and edit our wiki for the Standup. Yeah. And paste it in here as well. For anybody watching in the future could come in here and click the link. Very, very cool. Well, we're going to go a little off the beaten path. We've actually never talked about this, but we have been looking for more core maintainers. You may have noticed Pedro, our amazing Pedro, hasn't been on the monthly stand-up in a while. And that's because Pedro's stepping down, which is great. The work you did, Pedro, is incredible. It's been an honor working with you for the last few years, going all the way back to the Xamarin Community Toolkit. But we need another Pedro. We're looking for folks in the community to join the team. And we've been asking around and haven't found or haven't been able to connect with anybody yet. So what we are thinking, and this is actually kind of question to us here, how we want to move forward with it, but kind of making an announcement that we are looking for new maintainers, at least one. We should probably figure out an exact number, but I was kind of inspired recently by the way Stack Overflow does their elections. So Stack Overflow has these community moderator elections, and I don't know if anybody else is big into Stack Overflow, has participated in any of these. But if we look at, let's say, the 2022 moderator election, basically what happens is somebody opens up a Stack Overflow question. You can kind of think of it like that. And then folks submit themselves. So it's self-submission, and you kind of explain why you think you'd be good for becoming a Stack Overflow moderator. And then folks like us in the community go in and we upvote kind of who we think would also be the best moderator. And yeah, what we're thinking, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts, guys, is do something similar. So we could do this using GitHub, I think. I think I could open up a discussion in GitHub, and then anybody who wants to nominate themselves can leave a comment and explain, here's what I've done in open source, or maybe you've never done anything in open source, but you're going to commit to fixing 12 bugs in the first month. That'd be great. So kind of list your skills, your abilities, why you think you'd be great, and then we'll encourage the community to come in and upvote whomever they think would be best. And we could just set a date for, say, the end of the election. So on, and I'm just making up dates here, but August 31st, we say all the votes are in, and we look at who's got the most. And if we're bringing on one person, whoever's got the most, they'll join the team. If we're bringing on two people, but yeah, what do you guys think? I wanted to make sure we do this in a open, community forward, fair way where everybody's got a shot. And then the nice thing I think about using GitHub is it kind of limits spam. Like we could probably open an online poll, but then maybe you could vote for yourself 100 times. Whereas at least with the GitHub account, you're only going to get that one upvote. Maybe somebody's going to go through the hassle of creating 100 GitHub accounts, but if they're that passionate, then yeah, you should probably be on the team anyways.
I think it sounds like a good and open and healthy approach. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I'm all for keeping it out in the open and giving anyone the platform to do it, as long as we don't. Obviously, we don't have lots of people volunteering at the moment, so as long as it doesn't make it more effort to come on board, and just make sure the wording is clear enough that we aren't expecting like ridiculous levels of expert or anything like that. Is the case of everyone's welcome, and it's
absolutely.
Any help, please.
No, every time we push out a new feature, then get a couple bugs reported in it, and that's okay. We appreciate those, but definitely could use some help. Vlad, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I totally agree. I would say being core maintainer team also helps to grow fast as a developer, as a team member. It's not only like help the community, but also help yourself to be a great developer, because you learn a lot of new. You speak with us every day in our awesome Discord chat. Yeah, so don't be shy and leave your comments. We are waiting for you.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, let's figure out some dates offline. I'm thinking maybe we open it up in June, the nominations happen in July, and then we close the voting in August. But yeah, we'll figure out some dates. Stay tuned. Maybe, yeah, let's shoot for the July stand-up to launch this, and we'll get some new folks in the community. I think for us, something to think about, we just probably want to figure out how many slots we want to open. So Pedro stepped down, so obviously we'd love at least one, but there's no reason why we couldn't. Well, I was about to say we couldn't have 10, but maybe that would be too many pull requests coming in. So yeah, we'll figure out a good way to do it, and then also for us as the current maintainers, I think it also will create a nice healthy cycle. There's no reason that says, Sean, you've got to be a maintainer for the rest of your life, or that I have to lead the stand-ups for the rest of my life. Eventually we should be moving on, and that's how things grow. So it'll kind of create that yearly cycle where, if one of us wants to step down, it opens the opportunity for new people to come in, and then the toolkit's able to grow and always continue serving the community, which would be great. Cool. I'll set up some dates, and yeah, let's announce that in the next stand-up in July. All right. Moving back to our typical scheduled programming. Vlad, I saw you wanted to chat about the event args converter that we have a proposal open for.
Yeah, I don't remember a discussion and proposal. I just saw that we had a pull request open for this feature, and we closed it just because it didn't follow our usual flow from discussion to proposal to pull request. So here we just need to vote if we want to continue with this proposal. Actually, what it's about is just allows us to convert using our behavior event to command. and use it with any argument, not only like so it can be actually used with any command because any command allows to use any event arguments, and we can so it's a converter for it.
Makes sense.
More general converter for all kind of arguments.
So what are the thoughts? Because I know we have, and I think it's even in here. Well, maybe it's just alluded to, but yeah, don't we have something like this, right? There's like a item selected event args converter. How would we move forward with that? Is this something where they're similar enough to where we could share code, or this one's generic enough that maybe the one we have could then extend this one, like inherit from this and almost be like a more specific one? Yeah, what do you think about?
Well, I think we can have a general event converter, and then depends on the key argument. It can be any value, like more specific argument event. Well, actually, there is an open pull request. We can even see how it's implemented, and I think it's in the bottom in the closed list. Yeah, this one.
Gotcha. One file, so we'll need some tests added here.
Yeah, tests,
certainly samples. Let's see.
So it just converts
event
arguments to just its value, and that's it.
Gotcha. Yeah, that seems to make sense. Kim, Sean, what are your thoughts?
I'm just having a look at the comment from Pedro saying event to command behavior already has this feature.
Is that in the pull request here?
No, I'm actually looking at the YouTube chat.
Yeah, looks like Pedro commented on the PR. Gotcha. Okay. So, is this Vlad? Is this another kind of like we were talking about earlier? Like I was saying, the item selected event args converter is similar. How similar is this one?
Well, if it's already generic and it requests any, it's probably here about argument, not about like only event type. So it's navigated, but what can we get a parameter here?
Yeah.
See, it just converts a event to command, but does it allow to receive also parameters and convert it to command arguments?
Yeah.
Yeah. So looking at our code base, the event command behavior, if you pass it if you use the generic option, so you pass in a type, it will either pass in the command parameter if that's defined. If it's not, then it'll resort to the event args converter. And if that's not supplied, it'll just provide the event args itself as the parameter as the command parameter. That means you have to put the X type arguments in the XAML, or define the generic type when you're building it if you're building it in C#. It doesn't have like a blanket for event args itself.
Yeah, probably in that case we didn't need like this proposal, and we can just close it as it's already implemented and just point the documentation. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, if you like, I'll write up what I've just said and on that discussion, and if that gets to the point of making it clear as to why we don't need it, then that's fine.
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
I
okay.
can continue that discussion. That's fine.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Thanks, John. Thanks, Vlad. And yeah, also, happy to be wrong. Maybe there's something we're totally
probably.
overlooking, and this is a way better feature than anything we've got.
Maybe we incorrectly understood the idea of the author of this feature, and we just
Yeah, but so Vlad, for now, if you're okay with it, I'll make you not signed in. Dang it! And I'm using my phone for my camera, so I can't also do my two-factor auth. Well, Vlad, why don't you jump in there and assign yourself as the champion? And we'll say that we've got a champion, but we haven't voted to approve it yet. But basically, Vlad, you can kind of stay in touch with Danielle. Stay in touch with Danielle, and figure out, like, is this something we already have? Is this different? What specifically are you looking for? Maybe there's a way that we add a feature to the current behavior, if that's something he's looking for. Or maybe you just couldn't find it in the docs and we need to do better right in the docs. I don't know. All right. Thanks, Vlad. All right. So next on the list, we've had this pull request to fix a null reference exception in pop-up. And so, Vlad, I saw you ask for an issue, so we have a reproduction, and I totally agree with that.
Yeah, only that is why I decided to put like do not match because they haven't do not follow our like general rules, our flows. So yeah, despite this, it's pretty much clear what it's done here. Handler may be null, but it would be nice if we at least understand when it happens, and it would be nice to have like a reproduction sample just to see how it can be that handler is null, because technically we can put null validation everywhere, but why do we need it if value can be null?
Yeah, I agree. Really, that's kind of why I brought it up. It's just like, what are the downsides to just making this or checking for null here, and kind of also share with the community. We've had a couple of these PRs opened up where it's like the toolkit's throwing an exception, so here's a PR that removes the exception, or instead of throwing an exception if something's null, it just returns if it's null. So kind of silently failing. And there's been a couple times where we've had to explain to folks, like, we do that on purpose. This is what the behavior is that we intend to happen, because you know X, Y, and Z, right? Like if you go to use something in the toolkit and nothing happens, then a lot of people will find that to be a bug, which we call like failing silently. So I guess one of the questions I have here, Danielle, if you're watching, is just like, why would the handler be null? Like, what are the scenarios where this is invoked? Because
it can be null only probably on the earliest stage where we just created control, but it haven't set a handler, where like probably it's usually like on a pairing, maybe on some like this lifetime of the page. We have a on handler changed event occurred, but yeah, probably just before that moment of time the handler can be null, but how pop-up can be displayed before it's a good question.
Yeah.
Interestingly, if you hover over the handler in Visual Studio, the IntelliCode tells you it is not
in the
null.
browser.
Not quite. No, we're not quite there yet. It does state that it is not null.
Interesting. So this actually might be good feedback for the Maui team. If sounds like maybe they have something under the hood, or could be. I think they still haven't implemented nullability in every class or every file yet. So that could be what's going on here too. But anyways, yeah, send us send us over a repro. This one looks like a simple fix, but let's find out. But either way, yeah, we'd love to either fix the bug or pass on that feedback to the Maui team. And also, if anybody out there is also experiencing this same bug and is able to provide a repo, that'd be great too. We don't have to wait for Danielle to maybe hopefully watch the stand up and submit it, but we appreciate it. We just need some help to make sure we are fixing what we intend to fix. But moving on, we've got Vlad with the badge counter PR. I saw a big change to this one recently. Why don't you tell us a little more? What is badge counter for maybe folks who haven't played around with this yet?
Yeah, probably I can also show it on my screen as well. So it's mostly why I decided to discuss it. It's mostly related to the Android implementation. And as you know, with Android, there are a lot of different launches that can technically display different badge counter. And because native Google implementation doesn't allow to show the number, it only can show dot. And even only in case you have a notification displayed by the application. So because there are a lot of different manufacturers who develop different launches, different mobiles, operation system based on Android, we technically can, but probably shouldn't support all different maintainers. And I decided to a bit change implementation for Android. So what I changed here, we still have a badge implementation for our iBadge .NET MAUI, but for method setCount, we get a badge provider, and that badge provider setCount. So to get a badge, what is a badge provider? For now, it's an interface for Android to get a provider. Technically, it's our launcher, like a UI for our operation system, where you have all apps and which actually can display this badge. So, and also there is a factory, badge factory that where you can register your provider and get a badge based on launcher type. So launcher type, we just receive it based on the main package, like in action main. And that's it. So it's up to developers, up to users to implement their own badge provider. For example, if user want to support only Samsung devices, for example, they only need to implement, for example, I added Samsung page provider with its own implementation, and that's it. So it's in sample application, so it displays how it can be used. Also, somewhere here, I register it's a badge provider, but for all other manufacturers, I suggest not to include them in our library just because we technically cannot support all launchers that currently available in market. If users want to use it in their applications, they can use this Nugget package, a separate Nugget package for Android, like Xamarin Android Shortcut Badger, that support more providers like Huawei, Oppo, Apex, HTC, Sony, and just call it with a single line, and they can receive this result. So it's my proposal. So just because we do not want to rely on third-party implementations, but migrating every provider and just copy paste it from third-party libraries and technically support all different manufacturers. It's probably hard for us and probably even not needed by us because we do not know your application. You better know what you need and what operation system is you target, what launches you target, and you can implement your own. What do you think? Yeah, if you don't agree with me, yeah, I can continue and just implement it in our library.
Well, I can say, as somebody who's implemented something similar to this for an Android app I have in the App Store, like, yeah, batches on Android are just stupidly hard. Kind of like you're showing, you have to add all those lines to the Android manifest, and you have to account for all the different manufacturers. So I guess my feedback is it's not really easy for the developer to do all this. So like I kind of see the toolkit. Well, hopefully everybody sees the toolkit as something that it makes your life easier, and this definitely helps. But I think most people will expect it to just work, and then to come to find out they have to kind of do all that legwork themselves to account for the different manufacturers is tough. So I don't know the best way to do it. I think what you've got here, Vlad, is really, really good. But I see bugs opening in our future, and it's also tough documentation to have. We'll have to cover as many as we can. But I guess zooming way out, like you mentioned, Vlad, there are other libraries out there. Is it just as hard, or I don't want to say hard? Are there as many steps required for those other libraries? Like, do they also have you have to update your Android manifest manually? You have to register things manually. Like, how do they do it?
Yeah, they all. As for this library, it also requires us to manually add user permissions for different manufacturers. And you can see there are a lot of different providers. Some of them allow like easy implementation, like it's just like 3 lines of code. With some of them, like Samsung, requires much more. Technically, we can just try to implement something like default page provider, which probably can satisfy some users, and point in documentation or somewhere in code that you can probably reuse the code from this library and include it if you need, like simply copy paste this code and just use it in your library, and that's it. Yeah, just because, like, for example, I do not have like all these devices. I have only like old Samsung device, which I can technically test and see that it works. Because, for example, as for all other devices, we even cannot test and check if our implementation or this implementation works. So probably that is why probably if user has this device and support this device, probably it's better for him just to check if it works, because even when we receive an issue, for example, Xiaomi page provider doesn't work, we most likely will wait until someone of us or somewhere from community who has Xiaomi device or just fix the issue if it's really issue.
Yeah. I kind of had a similar thought, like if we could provide a couple of these, well, I I guess not to steal this entire library's implementation, but yeah, I like the idea of it doing a couple of these for me. And then, but then I also love the extensibility that you have built in Vlad, where I can also just register new providers as well. Gosh, yeah, I feel like we should provide some. I mean, yeah, like you said, Vlad, like the maintenance is going to be tough because who has an Oppo phone or a Xiaomi phone?
Ideally, if someone from like Samsung company come to us and we want that you have this feature, we implemented provider for you and want to include it, like we have a Tizen team and .NET MAUI. So if some providers will come to us with this proposal, we will definitely love it and support them. But to support, like for example, Nova, even I don't know what it's about. And yeah, probably this feature even available in paid package, and I don't know if we even if we implement it, what should we do with it?
Yeah, Sean, Kim, what are your thoughts?
Where do you go first, Sean?
I would wait for you.
So play.
I did get myself a little distracted on some on that event command behavior stuff, but I think there's sense in not doing too much and putting extra burden upon ourselves. But like you said, I do like having the ability for people to be able to put their own implementations in if they need. I suspect we'd have to document that pretty well, but we'd still end up getting issues to say it doesn't work on my device. Why not? And then we'd have to direct people to the documentation. But that's not that much of a burden. I'm not going to admit to all of the chief Android phones I have here that I could test with. I don't know. What do you think, Kim?
What's the downside of not doing it is they just don't have an implementation on Android, right?
Yeah, default implementation, it just displays it. Well, it's even not about the number. It displays like a dot here instead of number. And it's only available when you send the notification. So if you have a local notification somewhere in application and application received it, you will see this dot. When you put your finger on this badge and press on it, you will see like a small pop-up with the notifications and the number of notifications there. So that's how it works in native Android, like in Android from Google.
Yeah. I don't know. I always feel edgy about the support requirements of something that's very specific to a bunch of different devices. But
it's always a scary thing about Android, isn't it? There's all those unique flavors.
Everything's scary about Android.
So, maybe somebody knows here. What options do developers and community have today? Like, is there already a .NET MAUI library, or Vlad, were you essentially porting that from Xamarin to .NET MAUI?
Well, this library is just for Android, so it's not even depends on like Xamarin, or it depends on like .NET for Android, and that's it. It doesn't depend on Xamarin Forms or .NET MAUI, so it can be used in any of them. And yeah, if well, as for this library, it depends on cross activity. package, and with .NET MAUI we need to also register it separately, like we had in Xamarin Forms, in like cross-platform activity in it to make it work. But all other things works. So on the one side, we can like just recommend this library as an alternative for users and just remove Android implementation probably at all. But I don't think it's a good way.
Yeah.
A quick Google just finds this blog post by a certain Vladislav.
Yeah.
That or badge views. That only seems to be the kind of the hit. So it doesn't seem too much, unless it's got a different name. Maybe it's app icon. That might be a better search.
So basically, there's no easy way for folks in the community to do this nowadays. And I'm sure I'm going to have to do this in one of my apps when I finally port it over from Xamarin Forms. So certainly something selfishly I'd want. Gosh, what if? So I kind of see a couple ways we could move forward. We can move forward with the implementation we have from Vlad, which I don't think is the most user-friendly. It'll certainly be the easiest for us to maintain. Although we'll probably get issues or discussions opened up about like why it doesn't work, because we'll have to have extensive docs. Or what if, is it too crazy to throw this into a new package, like kind of like we did with Media Element, because Media Element had some external dependencies where we're going to rely on that third-party library to provide us those implementations. We could still keep it extensible in the way that Vlad's designed it. So if you have a new phone that's not already included, you can add it. But it would be a new NuGet package, which there certainly is some maintenance costs there, but we've kind of shown we can do it with Media Element.
Actually, it will be like only for Android because all other providers don't have this issue, and also it will be just a copy of existing plugin page Android package. So I don't know if it needed just because we want to support only like it for Android.
Yeah, I guess the third option is we finally break the rule where like we've been pretty adamant about not wanting third-party libraries. We've gotten a little carried away with that in the past, and back in the Xamarin days, there was performance impacts. Every time you had a DLL, your app got a little slower to start up. Fun fact about Xamarin. Maui, that's not the case anymore. So I guess the third option would be do we make that exception and bring in this library as a dependency? I don't know.
Yeah,
cool.
Probably I would also not to include this library, probably just because it's last updated in 2017.
Oh, look at that.
But it still works. So nothing changed in that from that time. But anyway, all manufacturers update their launches, so it will be hard for us to, at least first of all, we will need to check if even if we provide this dependency on this package, we will still need to check if it works, because we rely on this package and we technically trust it and recommend it, so we need to make sure that it also works for all all these manufacturers as well.
I'm just gonna take that back. Like, seeing that this hasn't been touched in 6 years, probably not the best one to bend the rules for. I don't. Here's the way I'm leaning, and we can do like a quick vote on it and then kind of how to move forward. Because again, if there's no libraries doing this yet, then it's obviously a beneficial feature and it'll help a lot of devs, probably including us, definitely me, selfishly in the future. But what I'm leaning towards is bringing in some of those providers. So maybe we just, I don't know if we were able to get a hold of the developer of that repo to see if they'd be okay with us essentially just copy pasting the code, bring that in. It might need to be modernized a little bit for Maui, but it looks like it's all Android specific. But anyways, yeah, the way I'm leaning is we do as many providers as we can. We keep the extensibility where folks can add those in. I think there's also a way that we could add in those Android manifests or add in those lines to the Android manifest for you. I think that would be really nice. I want to say like we could use attributes, the Android manifest attribute, and that'll propagate into the user's app just to make that experience a little bit better. Because I know I would want to just be able to call like badge.setCount 3 and for it to work, or whatever the API is.
There is logic in that idea. If each of the providers exposes those attributes when you register them, could we make use of it that way? Obviously, so do you have to? I guess you have to register it in your own code, in the application code, not necessarily in the library code. Okay, it'd be fun to work out whether we can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if there's something we can call in like .use community toolkit that adds in attributes or something like that.
Yeah. So Pedro's got an interesting comment in the chat where he's saying, look, if you're going to do something with attributes, when you're going to add it in, it's going to do it for people regardless of whether they use the badge or not. It's going to munge their file, which is probably a little bit rude. I think a key thing is it's good to have some base level ones and some, like as many providers as possible, but as long and have the extensibility for ones that it doesn't support and have documentation about, anything that you need to add in, as long as the whole thing doesn't make it any harder for anyone just using the community toolkit. You know what I mean? There's no additional step that anyone who's not using this has to do. I think that would be good.
Yeah. I was hoping it was more a magic opt-in. If you decide to register a provider in your code base, then it will do the attribute addition at that point or something like that.
Yeah, and maybe there's some magic we can do. I don't know if be as simple as just saying we add in like a .use Maui Community Toolkit badge, and then that's what registers all those things in the manifest. But okay, so it sounds like we do want to move forward with bringing in those platform-specific implementations, and yeah, let's see if there is a way to non-intrusively to be able to add all those attributes or add all those lines to the manifest. Maybe it's as attributes. If you're going to use the badge, like, I don't know if even like there's a way where the handler, when a class gets newed up on Android, that's what triggers it, something like that. Because yeah, this will be a tough one. I mean, if we can make it easy for folks to use, I think people will be eternally grateful. But yeah, I think the way we have it right now would be very, very difficult. Makes it a little bit easier, but I could see folks running into all sorts of problems, and then those problems become our problems, and then we have more bugs to fix. So
I'm part wondering if we actually did the bare minimum by just providing one, the default perhaps, and then if we have a list of samples of these providers, and we can stick the attributes in there. So actually, all you have to do is, if you want one, it's almost a copy and paste, and the act of doing that does all of the setup for them. I don't know how easy that is, but I'm quite keen to not overcommit to everything, or commit to as little as possible for at least for a V1, and then can always expand upon it later on.
Yeah, I agree. It would be probably the best way for us to just support like default or some like only default. And probably in our sample, we can include as many providers as we want and just recommend users. So see, you can just copy paste this code, modify how you want it, probably for future devices or for old devices, it could maybe be different. Who knows? And they can just reuse it. So we can technically just copy this to our sample, but not to include it in our core library.
And have a little voting system every time someone copies it and uses it and it works, then we can gain a little bit more confidence. That's good, and we can bring it in.
Oh goodness, I think I'm still leaning towards like let's just bring them in. So because my thought is, if you call it on iOS and you see the behavior working, you're going to expect that same thing on Android. But then if Android doesn't, or when Android doesn't, if we just do the default implementation, because now it's not showing the number, then all of a sudden ours is broken, even though that's also the way we designed it. You know what I mean? Like we kind of see this similar feedback around pop-up, right? Like folks on Windows are like, why is it different? Just fair feedback. Gosh.
What's your opinion, Andy? You've obviously gone to the effort of implemented the PR already. Are you actively using the behavior or the feature in apps?
Well, as for me, previously I just implemented it using this third-party library. Yeah, as I wrote in that article, I just described how, so it technically just was copy-paste to Community Toolkit. But then as we decided that we shouldn't depends on third-party packages, and the other one is a bit more newer from 2019. Yeah, but anyway, it's for me it's a better way. So I don't use it in my application for now, so I don't need this feature. But as for those who use it, I suggest just to implement it using their own implementation, or for Android, technically just use a third-party library. It will be probably the better option. So from our side, from maintainers, I still recommend to have in base library or in our core library has only like abstraction, like iPage provider. And if you want to support like Samsung, you can implement Samsung page provider. If you want to support Xiaomi, you can implement Xiaomi page provider. But yeah, we can add default, which is probably can be reused. Some like launches may rely on it and just technically display it, but as more launches available on the market, we definitely cannot support on all of them. And if your application really wants to display this page on this launcher, it's probably the better way that you just implement it in a way you want.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think we can move forward with that. So we'll bring in that default implementation. So there's something shows up on Android. So it's not just this fail quietly. And then Sean, as the docs guy, do you see a way of providing all of these samples in the docs? Like, can we have, in my mind, I'm kind of picturing like those tabs where you could say like, if you want to add Samsung, here's the code, copy paste. You want to add Huawei, copy paste.
Yeah, we could split it that way. We could have multiple pages, one per provider. We can see what fits. We've got a fair bit of power in the docs, so we can see what works best.
And as for default, like in Android Simulator, which you technically installed on your device, you will not see this page with default Android operation system. You anyway need to install some launcher, for example, from market, like Nova launcher or whatever. So only after that you will see this page. Like default implementation doesn't work and it's not supported. It will only display this dot with a number of notifications that you up received. So this number is used only for local notifications on any notification that you up received. It's how it's implemented by Android for now.
So, Vlad, you're saying if we just do the default implementation and I go to run it on my Android emulator, I won't see anything?
Yeah.
See, that's where I think we're going to get in trouble with folks, and we're going to see issues popping up is exactly there.
Yeah, just because I haven't seen it on Android. Android page number and modify notification page. You can see how it's implemented. It's about, first of all, it's about notification. Also, it's available starting from Android 8. And notification page number is that this is number, and that's not what probably user expects. So yeah, and as you can see from the documentation, it's about sending notification. So you create a notification, you send notification with some text. I tried this way. It's required title, text, and small icon. It's 3 required parameters just to display the notification. And only after that you can set technically any number. And what you will usually see, for example, here, when you receive notification, you will see this small dot image. When you click on the icon, you will see the notifications list with this number. So this feature is with the page number is about notifications on native Android, but other manufacturers improved it and implemented, like you can technically display any number here and it's not related to notification. So that is the differences. And yeah, so we can just use and implement what we have from manufacturers or from native implementation from Google.
All right. Or maybe, what if we do something like this? We're running a little long here, and I do think there's a lot of merit in this. What if we've never done this before, but we release this as like a preview feature? Like we would have, I mean, it would be in a stable release. We haven't really done any pre-releases on NuGet, but in the docs, we could say that we could add a little warning or letting people know that this is a preview feature. And then I think we could start making that incremental progress where we can push it out with the default behavior and the users have to do a lot themselves. And then maybe slowly start chipping away at that till we get to a spot where we feel like it's like this is good. And because I feel like we're gonna have to do this eventually. So, like this is such a common feature and no other libraries are doing it. So it's a good thing to go. Can we do that, Sean, in the docs?
Yeah, I mean, we had a big banner to say everything was in preview prior to the first release. So we can do that. Pedro just came up with the idea about preview flags, or feature flags, like what Xamarin Forms used to do. whether we'd want to make people explicitly opt in for badge.
Just a question about it. Should it be only for Android? Because as for other platforms, there are no issues and it's natively supported. Like this for
always
Android, for Apple, for Windows.
Yeah, we could say something like that. And then I think we'd want to do something also in like the XML comments. And so for IntelliSense, you would see that this for Android, blah, blah, blah. Add some remarks there.
Yeah, sounds good for me.
All right, well, let's push forward with that. Thank you, Vlad. This, of course, Android makes it way too complicated. Let's see. We do still have a bunch of stuff. Let's see. I'll tell you what, though. This one's a question that I have for Gerald to follow up on. He's going to follow up on relative binding sources for us. Gerald and I talked about visual states and MAUI markup. Let me let's show this one off in case anybody watching is interested in helping out. Was chatting with Gerald just today or yesterday about how do we do visual states in MAUI.markup. And right now, there's really no great way to do it in C#. This is literally how you have to do it. You call visual state manager .set visual state groups, and then you pass in a new visual state group list, and it's all really clunky. You can kind of tell these APIs were designed with XAML in mind, because if you do this in XAML, it's very elegant and beautiful. You do it in C# and it looks like this. So there's definitely a way we can make it better. And there's talks of getting Visual Studio templates that include the MAUI Community Toolkit, and also one that include the C# markup Community Toolkit. And this was something Gerald was asking about. So if anybody out there is interested in putting together new API design around visual state groups, come join this discussion, because we'd love to implement this. This might be something I dig into later this month. And there was also, we have a discussion that Pedro brought up that we can chat about for a couple minutes. I don't want to keep you guys for too long, because I know, like, for Vlad, it's getting late for you, certainly. But Pedro had an idea of registering all of our services. So, like, if you just, when you say .use MAUI Community Toolkit, then we'd add all of these in for you. I don't hate the idea. I think it makes a lot of sense. The thoughts I have is that MAUI doesn't do that. So one of our goals is, we want to promote these features into .NET MAUI. And so if folks are used to doing things, we'll say the MAUI way, then I kind of feel obliged that we should follow that path. And then the concern that Pedro raises here is, like, does it have a performance hit? I don't think it would, because the dependency injection container should not initialize anything until you call it. So until you say, or inject it into a class, I guess, is when it would be initialized. So I don't think it would be a performance hit. But and then
there
also
will be initialization, won't there? Because we're accessing the default on those. There would be each of those would be initialized at that point when you're adding the singleton, surely.
Oh, because we're calling the single. Okay, actually, yeah, that's a good point.
And I think there was a blog post by, was it Peppers, stating that there is a better way of registering, and I think it was possibly using the lazy approach. So it is only instantiated when you really want it, rather than doing it in the app startup.
Yeah, I mean, under the hood, we use lazies to initialize all these, but yeah, you're right, John. It's a good call. Once we call .default, then then there's your perfect. All right. Like I said, thought it was a cool idea, interesting discussion.
It's quite a breaking change, isn't it? If we
it'd be a huge breaking change. But yeah, I think at least for now, maybe we keep an eye on this. Like as more and more community libraries come out, as people start developing more for Maui, if they go with that approach, maybe this could be something we do in the future. But yeah, my take on it is for now is like Maui doesn't do it, so we don't have to. It's not like
we can
expected.
add a parameter to our initialize method, optional parameter like init everything for me, like, and include all this stuff which we have in .NET MAUI in Community Toolkit, including handlers, including essentials, including all our implementation based on our optional parameter.
Yeah, my concern there is maintenance, because then every new feature we need to make sure we add it in there.
Yeah, but I got it. Yeah, currently we don't register it at all. Yeah.
You could expand upon the options that we have in the use community toolkit, and you could just say auto register everything. That matches what we've currently got, and then you can turn it off if you want to just optionally register the ones you want. I don't know.
True. Yeah, I would recommend we default to it being off if we do.
I would agree, but it's obviously more of a breaking change at that. But I guess we'll probably end up breaking someone at some point.
Yeah, and if there is a big perf hit, performance hit, that if we default it to being enabled, then we're impacting everybody's apps. But all right, well, fun thought. I think my take on it is like, let's see if other libraries start going down this road. I don't hate it. I think it's a great idea. You know, if you're going to use a library, why not have it initialize everything for you? But appreciate it, Pedro. And I think with that, that's basically it. I added on this topic about chatting about pop-ups. I just kind of want to mention that there's a lot of issues we're seeing pop up about pop-up, and I've got some ideas. So one thing I've seen, kind of speaking to the folks in the community, when I use pop-up myself, that when I close it, our close method is not asynchronous. You can't await it. It's kind of fire and forget. And so one of the tricks I found is I call popup.close, then I say await task.delay 750, so 750 milliseconds, and then it is finally closed. But I think what we should do, the best way to move forward would be to make that asynchronous. So we have close async, you can await it, because there's a lot of problems popping up in kind of around this problem where you call close and you expect the pop-up to be closed, and it's not. Or you try to open a pop-up, well, a pop-up's already open, and it can't because we can only display one pop-up at a time. So we could then do things like with toast. If you call a toast and toast is already displayed, we'll close that displayed toast for you, then display your toast, and that's all just asynchronous under the hood. So I think that's probably the direction we need to go for or go towards with pop-up, and would probably close a substantial amount of the pop-up bugs. But a couple minutes here. What do you guys think?
Why do we
asynchronous?
Why do we need to make synchronous if we do not have a code inside it that it should run synchronous? Why should we create a task, await it, if inside of it we use like synchronous methods? Why the issue happens, and how it, when we make it async await, how it can help us?
I think the main issue at the moment, or the hope is that, sorry, Brandon, is that it takes longer to close on iOS. So if we can actually suspend the user until it has actually closed, your call to then show the next pop-up should
there is an action in iOS. They use like completed handler, completed action, and that's it. But why do we need like make a close async method in that case? Can we just wait? Like, I don't know. Why do we need a async here? And
oh, maybe. I mean, maybe.
Can we? Yeah. Can we?
Maybe it doesn't, but I don't know. I haven't actually dug into anything. But I would assume iOS needs to access the main thread to do things. But yeah, if it doesn't need to be async, then yeah, we could just push this in as a bug fix, and we don't need a new API for it. But I don't know.
Will it be a breaking change in that case if we change close from void to close?
It would, but my thought is because popup has .show and .show async, that right now we only have .close, so we could just add .close async. It kind of what's the word I'm looking for? It kind of already exists or might already be expected. I was kind of expecting it the first time I used popup. I was like, "Where's close async?" So yeah, it'd either be just a new API that returns tasks that you can await, called close async, or yeah, Vlad, if we can do it under the hood without having to do anything asynchronously, like then yeah, that'd be even better. So we'll see. I just wanted to kind of erase it. You know, there's a lot of pop-up issues that I've seen around this area. So FYI to everybody, if you're watching and you want to use pop-up, yeah, on iOS it takes a little while to close. Even after you call close, it's not really closed for about another 750 milliseconds. So we're aware of it. And I'll try to carve out some time to play around with that this month. Whew. But with that, this might be our longest stand-up ever. So thanks for hanging in there with us. Thanks Kim. Thanks Vlad. Thanks Sean. Stay tuned. I'll put together some materials around how we will open up voting for any new core maintainers. So we'll have an announcement at our July stand-up on how you can nominate yourself and how you can then vote on all the nominees. And yeah, what's that? Come August, September, we'll see some new faces in the stream. So it'll be super, super exciting. So thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see you next month.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.